Hi, this is Sue Jackson of the Book by Book blog, and I'm here with another Friday Reads. I am very much enjoying my December reading so far. Last week I finished Homecoming, which I talked about on Friday Reads. Those last 100 pages were filled with twists and turns, so very much enjoyed that. And that was for book group, even though I didn't make it to book group, unfortunately. But for the rest of December and January, both for me, are very much read what you want months. And much of what I read in those months is like my most anticipated books because I'm focused on the books I've gotten as gifts. My husband and I, and my son as well, we get each other books for holidays. And right now I am trying to, and I've just gone through the period of, I had Big Book Summer, and then RIP Challenge in September and October, and then Nonfiction November. So I do have some books stacked up, who am I kidding? I have an entire bookcase of books waiting to be read. But there are some recent acquisitions that I've received as gifts this year for Mother's Day and my birthday. Even a couple still left from Christmas last year. And I want to get through as many of those as I can before I get more books for Christmas. Do you see how this works? Why there's a whole bookcase full? So the first book I reached for in this season of Read What You Most Want to Read was Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. Absolutely loving it. I was already a fan of hers because I loved The Storied Life of A.J. Fikry. I've read that book twice, both laughed and cried while reading it both times. Really, just that book has so much heart. And I was immediately pulled into this one right from the very first chapter, and I immediately fell in love with Sam and Sadie, the main characters. So as the novel opens, we meet the two main characters, Sam and Sadie. Sam is attending Harvard, Sadie is attending MIT, and the two of them meet on a train platform in the subway system in Boston. They haven't seen each other in years, but they were childhood friends. And then we go back to their childhood and see how they met. Sam was in a horrible car accident when he was 12 years old, completely mangled his foot, and underwent surgery after surgery after surgery with long periods of recovery and physical therapy. And they meet when Sam is in the hospital for yet another surgery, and Sadie is there with her sister who's being treated for cancer. So they're both about 12 years old. The accident where Sam hurt his foot, his mother died in that accident, and so Sam hasn't spoken a word to anyone in 6 weeks. The doctors are really worried about him. And then one day he's in the game room on the pediatric ward, and Sadie comes in and sits down next to him, and they begin talking and playing video games together. And they spend over 600 hours playing video games together as kids and bond very much over that, and then have a falling out. So when they meet up in Cambridge, a lot of time has passed, but there's still that instant connection. And their love, their childhood love of video games begins to translate into their adult lives as they decide to design their own game. The two of them are fabulous partners together. They are best friends, the kind of friends that just understand each other. They are both happiest when they're with each other. I'm not too far yet, but really enjoying it. As with A.J. Fikry, the writing is just outstanding. The characters are feel real, and you want to get to know them. You just love being with these characters. That's how I felt right from the beginning of this book. And her writing is just amazing. So she's got some passages that really make me think, and that I relate to, things about life and philosophy, about how life can change in an instant. I'm finding myself reaching for my iPad a lot to look up words, because she does use some words that I have to look up, but then, which probably sounds annoying and tedious. I would normally think that, but it's not here, because the words she uses, which are often obscure, even the definitions say they're obscure, actually perfectly fit the sentence that she's put them in, and the feeling she's trying to get across. So you don't have to look the words up, because you can tell what they mean from context, because they are so perfectly suited to the context. So that's an interesting part of this book. But I want to give you an idea of her skill with language, how her descriptions just pull you in. This is just a short paragraph about the cologne that one of the characters wears. His name is Dove. But it was Dove's cologne that Marx loathed. It wasn't a cheap cologne, but as soon as he came into the room, his scent was everywhere. And even after he left, and they opened every window in the apartment, Marx could still smell him. The room felt murky and musky, oppressive with pine, patchouli, and cedar. It was, he felt, an aggressively male cologne, a roofie of a cologne. The language there, she's just talking about this guy's cologne, but you understand, you get such a picture of the character just from that short description of his cologne. So I am absolutely loving Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. So far, it has been worth the wait. Just really, really enjoying it, completely immersed in this world. And on audio, I am also listening to a much anticipated novel that I've been meaning to read all year, and that is How High We Go in the Dark by Sequoia Nagamatsu. This is so far a very unique, very engrossing novel. It is made up of separate stories moving forward in time after a climate disaster. So in that way, it has been compared to Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell, which is a series of separate stories about separate characters at different places in time, but that have small connections. And that's the way How High We Go in the Dark is as well. The stories do connect in subtle ways, but each one is about completely different people. And we seem to be, so far, moving forward in time. So it begins in 2030. A scientist has gone to the Arctic to take over his daughter's position on a dig in an area of the Arctic that is melting after his daughter died while working there. What they have found is the permafrost is melting, and they found a perfectly preserved young girl, and she had died of a deadly virus that, now that things have melted, is coming back to life and getting out into the world. So that's what starts it. But the focus is very much here on the characters. So it's not just about, it's science fiction that's not completely focused on science. It's focused on the people. This book is very much about humanity. So in that first story, we really get to know this scientist, how much he loved his daughter, what she sacrificed in order to do this work, what he is now sacrificing. But then we move to another story with different characters, a little further forward in time. I'm trying to remember. So the second story was about, just want to give you an idea of the creativity, the uniqueness, the breadth of this science fiction humanity set of stories. So the second story is about time has moved on. This Ice Age plague ended up being very deadly. The world is now trying to deal with how do we manage so many people dying and so many dead bodies. And so, which probably sounds really dark and really depressing, but this book is not that. It's not despair. It is more about the resilience of humanity. So there's a story about a young man working in an amusement park for terminally ill children, where their families bring them to have fun and do great things before they die. There's a story about a man who repairs robotic dogs for a living. And lots of people, especially as their loved ones are dying, want to keep these robotic dogs going as a memento. There's a very unusual story that is, I don't know if the people in it have died or in kind of a limbo, or if this is what they're experiencing while they're in their comas. But it's kind of trippy. So there's science fiction here. There's a focus on humanity. There's a thread running throughout the stories. Almost all of them feature an Asian American character or characters as the main character. And they are linked in subtle, clever ways. I am absolutely loving this book so far. Oh, my favorite story so far is about a talking pig. There is. And none of this is spoilers. These concepts are introduced right at the front of the story, and then, you learn more about the characters. It's all about the characters here, and humanity. So this one story, a geneticist was trying to save his own son. A lot of people with this virus, it kills your organs, and so organ transplant has become a big deal. And this one medical scientist has developed a way to raise pigs so that their organs can be transplanted into humans. And they've done this by splicing some of the human genome into the pigs. Well, one of these pigs learns to talk and is very much like a child, and the scientists are able to teach him. And the best part about it, I was laughing. So this is why it's not as dark as it sounds. I was laughing throughout this story because the pig is named Snotorious Pig. So there's a sense of humor here. The topics are kind of dark, but there's a sense of humor. It is all about resilience and creativity in the face of disaster. Very much enjoying how high we go in the dark. I can't wait to see where this goes. So that's what I'm reading this week. Let me know in the comments down below. What are you planning to read this weekend? And take a moment to like, and if you haven't already, subscribe so that we can stay in touch.